are you guys doing today? Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for having me today. So my name is Brian Alvarez, and I am a DJ. This is what I do for a living, so public speaking is part of it. But admittedly so, I'm a little nervous coming up here and talking to you all guys, but I am so grateful for this opportunity, so thank you. So I was born right here in southeastern Michigan. I went to Scarlett Mitchell, and for 15 years I've been DJing. I played for all over the state. I belong to a DJ collective called DJ DC Productions, and they're located right here in Saline. But the work that I'm most proud of is the work that I've done for charity, like the North Star Project, the Chad Tuff Foundation, and also the event on Maine. And the event on Maine actually put me in contact with Mott Children's Hospital. This was an amazing opportunity for me to share my love of DJing with children a lot like you, except that they had a little bit more tough situations that were in the forefront of their life. And what happened was I brought my DJ equipment to Mott Children's Hospital, and I saw something, and it was amazing. I saw these kids light up when they had the power of music. And I knew this feeling very well because that was the same feeling I had when I was in touch with music, right? Like when I was able to DJ for the first time. It was pretty exciting. So this was actually the inspiration of why I started my school DJ Academy, Technically Sound. So let me tell you a little bit about how I got here. I started promoting my school, Technically Sound, in Ann Arbor, and you know what? Saline reached out to me and showed me a lot of love. They said, we would love to have your school here. So I taught my class at Heritage, and I had well over 30 people attend this DJ class, and I was blown away at the response. It was so cool to have this many people interested in the magic of DJing. So not only did 30 kids show up, but all the support of their parents showed up as well. And one of the parents was a teacher, and she approached me later, and I shared a little bit about my history with music and the power of that through my life, and she asked me to speak here today. So that's how I got here. So let's address the obvious. I'm a DJ, and I don't have any music with me, so it's a little odd, and I apologize for that in advance. You probably should have, you know, a senator up here or a legislator or someone with a very positive message. But you know, when I was asked to speak here today, I decided that I wanted to tell you my real story. Not all the DJing and all the stuff like that, but how I got here to honor the kids that are going to be coming up here today. So if you would allow me, I would like to share a little bit about my past and how I became right here on stage. I'm painting a picture of me as a preteen. My mother was adopted, and she was from New Jersey. And my father, he was from South America, so he was an immigrant. They moved to Michigan, and when they moved to Michigan, I didn't have any immediate family, so I was kind of lonely. I remember growing up not very affluent. We didn't have very much money. And we moved around a lot, so I did not have a lot of friends. And my parents split up early on when I was a kid, and I turned to food to comfort me, and I put on a lot of weight when I was a kid. And because of this, I did not have a lot of self-esteem, and I was shy. This is a stark contrast from the guy who's here talking today. So growing up, I did have a relationship to music. I loved dancing, and this is one of the first times I had the experience of getting positive feedback for something I did rather than the person that I was. Dancing gave me a place to express myself in a safe way, and this was an amazing gift. So you might be asking yourself, why is this guy telling me about his life? This guy's a DJ. I want to hear about the DJing stuff. And I would love to tell you about all of my successes as a DJ. I'd love to share the stories about how I hung out with Beyonce a few times. She's an amazing woman, and she was very nice to me as a kid. We had similar friends, but I have to save that story for another time. Because if these kids are going to come out here on stage and they're going to be brave, I decided that I wanted to be brave too and share my story. So I want to tell you a little bit about how my journey through music reflects some of the same values that kids are learning right here in Saline schools. So when I listen to music, I listen to it from all sorts of countries. My dad listened to Latino music. We listened to Bob Marley and all sorts of different cultures. And what this led to was me being able to empathize with other cultures. Now, I grew up kind of poor, and I grew up in a majority black neighborhood. Because of this, I adopted a lot of mannerisms from my community. So when I went to middle school, I was actually bullied a lot. They told me that I was acting black, or I was a poser and I didn't belong. But, you know, for me as a kid growing up, I felt too brown to be white. I felt too white to be black. And I was cut off from all of my heritage as a Latino. So if you asked me, I would tell you the same thing that I felt then, is that I was somewhere in the middle, and I was American. And to be honest, I love America. And as a son of an immigrant, the idea of America is very important to me. Because I didn't feel like I belonged, the idea of the American dream was no matter who you are and where you come from, you can work hard and you can make it here. And that was an idea that I clung to desperately. I wanted in on this deal. I wanted to be a part of this thing. So this is also another common idea that is shared with an African-American writer called Africa Bambaataa. He said no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is, that you can express yourself in this art form. He understood, he was a DJ like me, and he understood that music made the world smaller. And when we listen to music, we actually connect with our ancestors. We can travel time. We can predict what's going to be cool in the future, and we can also listen to people in the past. And by doing this, we can empathize. And when we use empathy, we foster kindness. And kindness connects us to a larger family and makes us globally connected. Now, I lacked family support when I was young. My parents split, so that was a tough situation. I felt hopeless. And it was not safe for me to express this internal angst that I felt, right? And, you know, I had trouble in school because I had so many things going on in my personal life. It was very difficult for me to focus in school. I actually thought that I was not very smart because I couldn't solve simple math problems, but I just had trouble, and I learned differently. It wouldn't be until many years that I would figure out my recipe. And it was in high school, and some brave teachers, Kurt Meyer, Gail Dibsdale, they held a pilot class. It was an African drumming class. So we got to hit these drums. Can you imagine if your teacher said, go be as loud as you possibly can for an hour? It was amazing. I loved it. I got to bang on these drums, and something happened to me. I would do drums in the first hour, and then second hour, my hands would be kind of bleeding because they would be, but something happened. I was calm. I could listen. Whatever was happening inside of me, I got to get out. And that physical release helped me learn. Many years later, I would actually be engaged to my best friend. Her name's Shannon. She's amazing. She is the CEO of a company called Professional Communications. Please bear with me. Professional Communications developed a sociological tool that develops, so it takes groups of people and it divides them up. I'll save you all of the boring stuff, but I fell under the category of reactive stimulator. What she found in her research when she did it with schools and corporate America is that kids like me are misrepresented in corporate America. They're gone. Where do they go? I thought, wow, maybe these kids are like me and they learn a little bit differently. So, please excuse me, I'm going to switch this page. So this African drumming class, which I took, taught me the fundamentals of rhythm. But moreover, it taught me about having a physical relationship to numbers. Now, because of this class, I was able to break down fractions and learn percentages, and I became more successful at school because of the relationship I built with music. Now, this physical sort of learning helped me feel like I was no longer stupid. I felt adopted, like I was home. I think that 25% of the population is like me. This is just a theory. I don't know if this is true. But these are the ones that are in class that might be disruptive or have trouble focusing or connecting with other students. But I think for me, at least, this music was a big connector to help me become a complex problem solver. So when I was a kid, I also felt stress, and I used to draw a lot. I'm still an artist, and I'm an artist to this day. And I would draw a lot of disturbing images. And as I understand it, if you grow up in schools and you draw certain images, that there's kind of a profiling that happens that you might be predisposed to a certain sentiment. So I am lucky that I grew up then and not now. But honestly, this was a place for me to hide all of my emotions that I was feeling, because I needed a safe place to do that. The same was for dancing, and I danced very aggressively. And from the outside looking in, and I'm a parent, so I could definitely see that there was some worry because my dancing kind of looked a little violent, right? But we never fought. There was rules to help protect the participants. Another way for me to healthily get out these negative emotions. Finally, I was able to put into words what I felt. Hearing artists and their frustration through rock and roll, rap music, reggae, folk music, helped me understand that I wasn't alone, that people like me felt just like this. And music is true beauty, and we can all speak it. This concept, like others, that I have struggled to understand are the same things that are promoted here in Saline schools. So whether on the stage or on a dance floor or a sports field or even a science fair, I believe that we can give kids here an opportunity to communicate their ideas positively. I truly hope that the children of Saline, and I know that they're getting a place to share their stuff today because you guys offered them this stage, which is amazing, and kudos to you and your community for doing that. So I had no one teaching me these life skills as a kid, all right? It was through sheer grit that I became successful as a DJ. I remember having teachers give up on me, and actually some of them told me to drop out of their classes because they didn't think that I could accomplish them. It wouldn't be until many years later that I found out my own recipe for success, and I actually became, I was on the dean's list many years in a row in college, which is a sharp contrast from how I grew up. So this feeling of rejection is something that if you have felt it, it's something that you'd never want to pass on to anybody else, no matter what their skin color, identity, or where they came from, or how smart they were. It was probably the most destructive force for me growing up. Feeling dismissed, I gravitated towards passionate songs. They gave a voice to the voiceless. I love this one song by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and it was called Fortunate Son. And it was so angry, but that anger in that voice made me want to learn more about that person. And what I found out through my own independent research is that he was upset that he had to fight a war in Vietnam. And he was also feeling very dismissed, like I was feeling dismissed. He felt like his voice was being heard, and his song was a protest to that. And I related to that. Not only that, but that song helped me understand a little bit of history and geography. So music was a big force for me for learning. So I took these lyrics to heart and many others. I dedicated myself to art and music, and I perfected my craft. But what I realized is that life was not a sprint. It was a cross-country race. And if I needed to get to my goals, I needed endurance and a consistent drive to push through. If I had listened to what other people told me about me, I would probably be in jail. But I knew and realized that if I worked very hard, that I too could reap the rewards of the American dream. To become a DJ was more than just learning the technical skills. It was also leading a motivated and self-directed life. I think people can be dismissive of children. I think that they judge them before they open their mouths, calling them childish. But I think if we listen to children, that we would hear some of the most heartfelt and honest comments on life that we would ever hear today. I think that their blend of passion and honesty is something that is missing today in the world of adults. And as educators and parents, we should definitely keep that fire burning. Because I grew up poor, I felt like my opinion didn't matter. And although I was skilled in art and music, I didn't feel like they were acceptable career paths. Nobody supported me in this, and actually they discouraged me. They said, you'll never make it as a DJ, you're never gonna make it as an artist, you should probably just give up. But I had to find value in myself first, and then I had to find an audience. I had a friend growing up, his name was Donald. He was black, and I remember going to him and his mother's house, and they were talking, and they kept using the word ain't. And I pretty self-righteously walked up to his mother and I said, ma'am, I don't know if you know this, but ain't is not a word. She looked at me and very politely said, yes, it is. I just used it. I will remember this because this is kind of like she pushed through with her self-confidence and just made something out of nothing. And that's very similar to what I did as a DJ. People said that I couldn't do it. I just said, no, I am a DJ. And eventually, I became a DJ. And all it took was a little bit of imagination. Now, as I began to build my DJ skills, I learned many things that I was not accustomed to being a business owner. I had to be financially responsible, something that did not come easy for a kid who did not have a lot of money growing up. The other thing is I had to be good at computers, something I wasn't good at and was not formally taught at my school. But both of these elements are something in the SAS compass, and I believe that Celine can build these kids up with their skills. They'd be paving the way for the next generation of entrepreneurs and problem solvers. Kids are usually told all the time that their young, idealistic views are not valid or not valuable, but I would beg to differ. I think kids can truly do whatever they want if they have a community, unlike me. So I think that they could do whatever they would like. The talented speakers that are going to follow are evidence that Celine has something to offer the world. But these kids have the potentials to be collaborative leaders and ethical, responsible citizens, and we could use more of that in this day and age. So that the child I was would actually have a very difficult time sharing what I'm about to share. At many times in my life, I did not feel safe. There was a lot of violence in my school, my home, and my neighborhood. There was nowhere that I could go to feel okay. And I imagine that powerlessness is a feeling that many kids feel. And while their experience might not be my experience, it's still a form of injustice. But unlike these kids, adults have these ideas that this is just the way the world is. And as adults, we can sometimes get caught up in taking on very unacceptable norms, very terrible norms. Kids are beautiful because they have the resource and enthusiasm and energy to dream of a world more perfect than this one. When I became a DJ, I had control over a small place, whether that's the dance floor or music. I desired to create that community that I never had. I wanted to be the adult that I never had, and give a place where they can safely express themselves. This is the impact of small groups. Change is hard, especially when you're alone. But together, as a community, we are capable of creating long-lasting and positive change. My DJ Academy wishes to give voices to the voiceless. Rather than telling children that their dreams are impossible or impractical, I would like to invite them to play and learn with like-minded people. My life today would have been impossible if I had not had art. So even though I'm a DJ, I would like to apologize for not bringing any music for you today. I'll save it for the next time. In my defense, those turntables are pretty heavy, so please excuse me. I've been using a word, art, music, and dance. That word has another, that kind of encapsulates it, and it's called hip-hop. Hip-hop is an American tradition. There's nothing more American than it, and by no stretch of the imagination, hip-hop definitely saved my life. So I would like to thank you very much for allowing me to share my story. And I want to share one last thing. if I could. The first step in becoming a good DJ is to become a good listener. Listen to your clients, listen to the dance floor, listen to the music, and then make those dreams come true. So I invite you to be good listeners. Listen to these children, listen to their dreams, listen to what they ask of you, and then make their dreams come true. Thank you.